Okay, so this is why it's important for you to either know how to write a resume or that you're using the right resources so that you can make it through the applicant tracking system and start getting selected for interviews for positions that you qualify for. Another issue with ChatGPT is that a lot of people are doing the same exact thing. They're taking the job posting, copying and pasting it into ChatGPT and say, write a version of my resume that matches with this job posting. And what recruiters are starting to see issues with nowadays are resumes that look identical to one another, because you guys have to remember that this is AI and it is receiving information from all over the world for positions, right? And so if you're looking for a position, let's just say in the United States of America, and it's a remote role, and there's several people across the United States of America that's interested in this role, and everybody's doing the same exact thing, ChatGPT is going to start giving the same kind of bullet points to different people for the same exact role. And you don't want your resume to blend in with everybody else's when you're trying to stand out from the crowd. So it's important for you to know how to customize your resume that is specific to your background when you are using AI and when you're using ChatGPT. I'm not totally against using AI to write your resume, but there's a way that you have to do it if you want to stand out from the crowd and not do what everybody else is doing. And this is also important where you decide to apply for different job opportunities or how you decide to go about this process is extremely important. Blossom is created specifically for healthcare professionals that work inside of the industry on the non-clinical side, and it has everything built inside of it that you need. The resume templates, the AI bullet point generator, resume scoring, resume tracking, job tracking, applying for the positions. Everything is built inside of it in one spot versus you having to be all over the place using multiple different resources to get your job search done. All of the positions that are posted on Blossom are 100% remote and directly with healthcare organizations, hospitals, clinics. We don't post any job opportunities with staffing companies or consulting agencies. And as you can see, if you're using the same version of your resume without making any changes each time you apply for a different job opportunity, more than likely you're missing out on opportunities to add in additional keywords inside of your resume. And if you haven't been keeping up with this and tracking what's inside of job postings and what's not, more than likely you have no idea what your top 10 keywords are that you need to have inside of your resume. And so making small tweaks and changes, a bullet point there, adding a word here can make all the world of a difference. When people hear, don't use the same version of your resume, you have to change it every single time you apply to a different position, some people are thinking that they have to do a complete rewrite, and it's not that. It could just be a matter of you plugging in a few keywords inside of your resume. Imagine not getting selected for an interview for a position you qualify for that paid very well because you were missing 2 or 3 keywords from your resume. Imagine that. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you something else. All right, I've heard it all at this point. The job market is trash. I need more certifications. I need more years of experience. I need a degree. And it could be far from the truth. You're not getting rejected. More than likely, you are being filtered out of the system. And that's why this feels so personal to you. You feel like I'm doing everything right, but nothing is happening. I'm still not getting any requests for interviews. You're applying, and still the system is like, next. And it's sending you those auto-generated emails that's saying that they decided to pursue another candidate. So if you're one of those people that's telling yourself, I feel like I need another certification, maybe it's the years of experience. Is it just that the job market is trash? Is it that AI is taking jobs? Like, what's going on right now? You're trying to figure out what is happening and you want to figure this out in just a few minutes. I need you to pause for a second here, because a lot of you have the experience that companies are looking for. They're ready to meet you exactly where you are right now. But you're invisible to them because of how your resume is written. There's a reason why anywhere between 70 to 90% of all applications are immediately rejected by the applicant tracking system. There's a reason why you're using ChatGPT and it's still not working with your resume. And most importantly, there's a reason why using one version of your resume over and over again for multiple different job posting does not work, and you have to stop doing that. If you're new here and you're just finding my page, my name is Valerie, and I've been in the healthcare industry for 20 years now as a registered health information technician. I worked in healthcare revenue integrity, and I've been doing career coaching for the last 6 years. I've been in this industry long enough to let you know exactly what the hiring manager is looking for and what the applicant tracking system is looking for as well, as a hiring manager and also as a job seeker. I've been on both sides of the fence here. And today I want to walk you through why using one version of your resume is quietly reducing the amount of requests for interviews you're receiving. So here's what I'm going to go through in this video. First, I'm going to show you why good resumes still fail. Then I'll explain exactly what the applicant tracking system is and what's happening behind the scenes and how you can work with the system versus against the system. And finally, I'll show you how to fix your visibility without having to rewrite your resume over and over again every single time from scratch. Let's go. You guys, so I want to show you what this looks like in real time because this isn't theory. This is exactly what happens when you apply for a job opportunity and your resume goes through the applicant tracking system and gets scored and ranked inside of the company system. So I'm just gonna click over here onto the job board here on Blossom. I'm gonna go into the medical coding category. And let's try this one here. So Profi Coder, $52 to $58 an hour, at least 2 years of experience. So if I wanted to apply for this position here, I would go ahead and click on the button so that it'll take me over to the job posting so I can read a little further into it. Blossom's Pro Plan, you have all the resume scoring features and resume templates and keyword tracking. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy the job posting. And I'm only going to copy the parts that speaks about the job duties, responsibilities, required skills and abilities, license certifications, things of that nature. And so if I want to score my resume for this position before applying, this is something that you should be doing, you can click the score resume button right here. And this will allow you to score your resume on Blossom before you submit any applications. So I just pasted over here the job posting. This one does list one of the certifications that I have. So this one has the RHIT. So I will go ahead and check RHIT off here as one of the certifications. And then I'm going to go ahead and click generate score. Now, I'm not surprised that my resume score came back as a 76% match for this particular role. There are a few keywords that are missing from my resume. Some of these can be ignored, like the and or, but for some of the keywords that are listed here, it could just be a matter of me tweaking a few of the bullet points that I have inside of my resume to include some of these keywords like guidelines and methods and, routine workflows, things of that nature. Some of these keywords here, I could think of a bullet point off the top of my brain that I could use to add a bullet point or just change up the way a sentence is written for my resume to be more of a match. Ideally, you want about a 75% match or higher for the best possible chances of making it through the applicant tracking system and possibly being selected for an interview. But if there's any opportunities for you to add in additional keywords inside of your resume, most definitely take it. I wouldn't just see this 76% score here and run with it and go ahead and apply to it. I would make, some tweaks and changes here and there so that I can get it more closer to the 90% range and higher. So I'm going to go ahead and save my resume score for this particular role. And what I really love about the pro tier of Blossom is that it keeps up with the keywords that are most frequently shown inside of your resume and the different job postings that you've been running through the system. It's going to let you know what the top 10 keyword trend is. And if you're crystal clear on the different kind of opportunities that you want to pursue, it makes it easier for you to keep up with what needs to be inside of your resume. And it helps you to have a stronger resume score each time you submit your application for future roles. But going back to the resume score, if you click back to the resume score and you go back down to the bottom, you can retrieve any previous scores that you have ran before. So this is the one that we just did. So if we want, we can reload the scan again and it'll come back, and we can also save these to the job tracker here as well. But nonetheless, if you are keeping up with what your resume score is and what the keywords are for the different kind of positions that you are applying for, it helps you to have a high level overview of what's working and what's not working. So if my resume score, let's just say this one is a 76% match, but let's just say I went through and I added some bullet points inside of my resume before submitting this one, and I got it up to a 90%. And I could see that I made it all the way to the interview stage, right? Maybe even the offer stage. I can see that when my resume score is higher, I'm actually making it through the system and I got selected for an interview. And you'll know if your resume made it through the applicant tracking system because when you go back in and you check the status of your application, it may say something along the lines of your resume is under review or your application is under review. But if you go back and you're not seeing that under review status, that means that it did not make it through the applicant tracking system. But you want to keep up with what's working and what's not working. And if you come back to your tracker and you see that your resume score for the positions that you didn't get an interview for was under the 75% that I recommend, then that can be an indicator to you, especially if these are positions that you qualified for. That could be an indicator to you that there might still be some keywords missing in your resume. There are still keywords missing from your resume that you need to get inside of your resume. So it takes away that confusion of what's going on. I'm not understanding what's happening. I'm not getting selected for interviews. You should be able to go back, look at the different positions that you applied for and see what your resume score was at the time that you submitted your application. A lot of job seekers nowadays do not have that information. They're not able to go back and see what their resume score was. What did their resume look like at the time that they submitted their application? So this is data that you want to utilize as you move forward with your job search. And when you hear things like resume scores being a 70%, 80%, 90% match, if your resume score does happen to be low when you run it through a resume scoring system like Blossom, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not qualified for the role. It could just mean that your resume is unaligned, especially if you know for a fact, like you have the skill set, you have the years of experience. If there's a degree or certification the company is mentioning inside of the job posting, you have it. But for some reason, you're just not making it through the system. If there is just this mysterious reason out here that you just cannot quite figure out what's going on, it's probably something involving the applicant tracking system and the quality of the resumes that you are submitting within it. So it's not a qualification problem. It's becoming more of a visibility problem here. And so let's go back to the resume a second and let's load the scan here and look at one of the keywords that's missing. So one of the keywords that's mentioned, that's missing is guidelines. And so I'm going to come to the job posting and I'm just going to find how guidelines is being used inside of the job posting. And so it's listed here 4 times. And the more a keyword is mentioned inside of a job posting, the more important it is for you to have it inside of your resume. And it hurts. If guidelines is in here 4 times and I don't have guidelines inside of my resume at least one time, the applicant tracking system is automatically ranking me lower and lower and lower in the system versus someone else who would apply for the same exact position. And let's just say their resume mentions guidelines at least 4 times or maybe even more. It's going to look at that candidate as the one who is more in alignment with the position. So I am just going to, I'm just going to take one of the line items here, because another thing that I really love about the system here is that if you are not great with resume writing and you need some assistance with that, on the pro tier, you have access to the resume templates and then also the GPT bullet point generator that will create the bullet points for you. Some people use resume scoring systems. They figure out what the keyword is and they just slap it in their resume any old way. And that is not the way this works, because remember, you have to write your resume for 2 audiences, one being the applicant tracking system, which is first and foremost, and second is humans. That's the hiring managers and recruiters. And for them, they're not just scanning your resume looking for a keyword. They are reading your resume in a different way. They're reading your resume in a way of, can this individual help us to overcome the common challenges that we face in this role? And the way the GPT bullet point generator works is that it helps you to put together the bullet points for you based on the information that you have inside of your resume. So I'm going to click on Resume Builder. This is where all the resume templates are. That role was a medical coding role, so I can click Use the Medical Coding Template, and I can click on the button that goes straight over to the GPT bullet point generator. And then here I can click this button that says, hey, help me to write some bullet points in my resume. And then Debbie, this is the name of our GPT here, she will help you to go through the process of getting a targeted bullet point inside of your resume. And right here, she's asking, what is the keyword or what is the sentence that's inside of the job posting that you're trying to get inside of your resume, the keywords. So right here, I'll just let her know what the keywords are and the bullet point is. And then from here, she will go through a series of questions to draw my real experience to put an achieving an alignment language bullet point sentence inside of my resume. Achieving an alignment. Okay, both. When you do that, one speaks to the applicant tracking system and the other speaks to the humans, the hiring managers and recruiters. And this is a huge mistake that a lot of people are doing with ChatGPT when they're just plugging their resume into the system and having it write their resume for them. You still can end up with a very ineffective resume because it's not drawing like real world experience, and it's not using the right keywords that you have inside of your that you need to have inside of your resume. And then if you don't understand the fundamentals of resume writing, that means that you don't know the prompts that you need to use inside of ChatGPT so that your resume actually works for you and not against you. So that's another feature that I really love on the pro tier of Blossom, is that we have the resume templates in here that you can use and that can be exported out, but you can also use the AI bullet point generator to help you to get the targeted bullet points inside of your resume versus paying for expensive resume templates or hiring an expensive resume writer. This is like having a resume writer in your back pocket. Let's go back to the job board. This time I'm going to go back to the medical coding category. Let's stay inside of the same category. And I'm going to pick a different position. Let's do this claims resolution coder. And another thing that I really love about Blossom is that if you are looking for job opportunities within a specific category, you kind of have a high level overview of the different salary ranges that different companies are paying for similar roles. So you can really bounce between, am I trying to get paid $20 to $30 an hour or $50 to $60 an hour. The last position was $50 to $60 an hour. This one is $22 to $37. But nonetheless, let's click the apply button. And I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy what's listed here inside of the job description. I'm going to click score my resume. I'm going to save it on the job tracker too. I'm going to score the resume. Okay, so same resume that's already in this profile. I'm going to paste the job description. I'm going to click the RHIT button and I'm going to generate the score. 62% match. Okay. 62% match, medical coding position, same resume for the job candidate, for the job seeker, but a different score. This is why it's so important to not just use the same exact version of your resume every single time you apply for a different job opportunity. Just because your resume score match is a 95% match for a medical coding role, for one role at one company, does not mean that your resume score will always be a 95% match or in the 90 percentile range. It could rank lower, and it could just be a few keywords that you need to add inside of your resume that makes all the world of a difference. You might come across a keyword and say, oh, wow, I didn't notice that, modifier isn't listed inside of my resume. I most definitely have experience appending modifiers and reviewing modifiers and knowing the appropriate usage of modifiers. I need to go into a little more detail inside of my resume. The more you do this, the more you identify the keywords that you need to have inside of your resume, the stronger your resume will become. But you must be able to keep up with it and track it. If you're not tracking your resume and the scores and the keywords that you're finding inside of your resume, you are probably feeling like you don't know what's going on. And it's literally because that is exactly what it is. You don't know what's going on. And it could lead you to blaming everything else, such as the job market, how many years of experience you have, a degree, a certification. You start thinking about all these other things, and you got to pause for a moment and think, is it my resume? Is it these little keywords that are missing from my resume that's really the true reason why I'm not getting selected for interviews for positions I qualify for? And here's the part that messes people up. Some people who are getting interviews and job offers don't necessarily have more experience than you. Some of them just has a resume that's written to speak to both the applicant tracking system and humans, the hiring manager. And the applicant tracking system does not read resumes the same way that a human does. But it's the most important in this process because it's the first hurdle here. Your resume has to make it through the applicant tracking system before the hiring manager sees it. So if your resume is not first speaking to the applicant tracking system, automatic reject. It does not infer, it does not assume, it does not take into consideration your potential. There is this saying that I have for resumes specifically within the healthcare industry. And we are all familiar with this saying when it comes to our providers and their medical documentation, which is what? If it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. And the applicant tracking system treats your resume the same exact way. So even though I've been inside of the healthcare industry for 20 years, and let's just say, for example, I have experience with insurance verification, which I do, but let's just say I decide to totally leave that outside of my resume and I apply for a position that requires that kind of experience, but there is no mention of insurance verification whatsoever inside of my resume. It is equivalent to me not having the experience. If I do not explicitly state that I have experience with insurance verification, the applicant tracking system will not pick that up as a skill set that I have because it is not inside of my resume. And when it comes to keyword matching and targeting, it's not just as simple as just putting the word inside of your resume, one and done, because you also have to speak to the second audience, which is the hiring managers and recruiters, and it's much deeper than you just putting a word inside of your resume. Okay, there has to be some substance behind it, but I hope you get the point of what I'm saying here. The applicant tracking system, in short, does not assume that you have a skill set if you do not explicitly state what that skill set is. When your resume goes through that applicant tracking system, it scores it, it sorts it, and then it separates it between the folks who are under consideration for further review and the ones that are going to get the email that says we decided to pursue other candidates. Visibility beats qualification every single time. So what does that mean? That means that we can have two people apply for the same exact position, and one of them can actually be the better qualified candidate. They may have more experience that is in alignment for the role, a degree, certification, everything that the company is requesting. But there could be someone else who also applies for the same exact position, but because they were using the right keywords and language inside of their resume better than the more qualified candidate, that person would be the one that would really make it through the applicant tracking system, even though it was candidate A that was the best match for the role. So let's talk about what the applicant tracking system does, because a lot I get the question, what is an ATS and what is an applicant tracking system? And almost every healthcare organization, hospital, clinic that you can think of is using one of these to help their human resources team determine who are the best candidates for the positions they've posted. So I kind of want you to think of the ATS as like the bouncer or the security at the front of a club that you are trying to get in. And the applicant tracking system is checking to see, does this resume match the job requirements, the minimum requirements, and the preferred requirements for the role. So the preferred is nice to have. If you have these, great. If not, it's not a deal breaker. It's also looking to see if there are specific keywords that are inside of the job posting, if they're also inside of your resume as well. Also, can the format and layout of your resume be easily parsed? Sometimes people are submitting resumes on documents that are not ATS friendly. So for example, dot pages, if you're using iMac, dot pages does not work well with the applicant tracking system. So some of you could be submitting versions of your resumes that's going through the system totally blank. And then also do the job titles and skills that's inside of this individual's resume. Does it align to the job posting? If the answer is not really, if the applicant tracking system is scoring your resume lower, then it is going to go into the pile of applications that is going to get that auto reject email that says we decided to pursue other candidates. If it's a good match, great. It's going over to the recruiter for further review and consideration. The recruiter may go through your application, or sometimes it's the hiring manager themselves. But if it's going on to the recruiter, they're going to take another look at it, and then they're going to hand over a stack of resumes to the hiring manager and says, these are the candidates that I think you should consider for the role. And then the hiring manager is going to make the final decision on who are going to be the candidates that actually get selected for the interview. And that is the goal. The goal is to get your resume through the applicant tracking system over to the recruiter's desk for them to look at it, and ultimately over to the hiring manager's desk so that they can lay eyes on your resume and make a decision on whether or not you would be good for the role. The applicant tracking system is looking at keywords. The hiring manager is looking at the pain points and challenges of working in the role. And if inside of your resume, you're really articulating that you have the skill set necessary to execute out on what you would need to do in that role. And so unlike the applicant tracking system, right, that cannot read further in and assume and look at, possible potential based on different roles that you've worked in or some skills that you have, or maybe making some assumptions of, oh, if you did this, maybe you have this skill set. So unlike the applicant tracking system, the hiring manager can do that when they're reading your resume. And so that's why it is extremely important for you to make it through the ATS with a high resume score, so that when the hiring manager does see your resume, that person can really give you a shot and consider bringing you in for an interview. One resume used to work a long, long time ago when humans were the ones that were actually doing the sorting and deciding who to call in for an interview. But nowadays, that doesn't work anymore, and it's not what's happening. Job titles vary by organization. The priorities change. There may be one company that's using a particular job title and job description for one role, and it's totally different somewhere else. It's not a one size fits all situation. And that's why using AI to be a partner in this process makes it just a little bit easier, because it can become complicated if you're just out here winging it, doing everything on your own manually, or not truly understanding how to use AI to help make this an expedited process for you. Now, what I will say is you do need a base resume. You need a version of your resume that is your master copy that you don't make any changes to, and then make a duplicate copy of that resume, and that is the one that you make the edits and changes to. And if you're interested in multiple different career paths like medical coding or medical billing or revenue cycle, revenue integrity, things of that nature, you may create a different version of your resume that goes along with each one of those categories to help make this process a little easier for you. You do not need to have 25 different versions of your resume. You need one master copy that has everything on it, and then another version of it that you make the edits and changes to. So here is your 3-check visibility test. Before you apply anywhere, run this test. Number 1 is title alignment. Translate internal titles to market titles. Some people, when you're going through your job search, you look at one job title and you may not read within the job description of what that person is actually doing. Do not just write off a role as it's not something you're interested in until you fully read through it. And you might actually learn that some companies are using different job titles for a role. It may be a medical coder role, but they're calling it a health information technician. And imagine if you were interested in a medical coding role, but because you saw health information technician as the title, you overlooked it. And you'll see this on USA Jobs with the Department of Veteran Affairs roles for the medical coders. Oftentimes they call them health information technician and they're not using medical coder. So make sure that you are thoroughly reading through the job title and the job description before you totally write something off. Check 2 is keyword proof. For example, if the job posting says denials management and you have that experience, but you look at your resume and that keyword is not in there at all, and you're thinking about clicking that submit button to apply, you are gambling because you may possibly not get selected for an interview. Make sure that you are keyword matching what the job posting says inside of your resume. Check 3, outcome and tools. Every keyword should speak to what you did, what tools you used to do this, and what the outcome was. Don't just go keyword stuffing, just plugging in keywords inside of your resume with no substance. It has to make sense. That is how the system recognizes you. And inside of Blossom, everything is already embedded inside of the system to do this for you, to help you through this process so that you're not trying to manually go through this process and guess. You can just run it through the system and it will tell you exactly what the keywords are. If you're not sure how to get the bullet points inside of your resume, you can use the AI bullet point generator. If you don't have a well-written resume, you don't know how to format your resume, there's over 21 resume templates inside of the system that is specific to working inside of the healthcare industry. If you're having a difficult time finding different kind of job opportunities, we have everything categorized and customized specifically for health information management and health information technology professionals. So whether you have 2 years of experience, 1 year of experience, no certification, you're looking for a high paying role, sponsorship, Epic sponsorship, all of the different kind of job opportunities are in there for all of the different categories, all the way from medical coding, release information, revenue cycle, clinical documentation improvement. Everything is in one central location so that you can just stop all of the scrolling and going through your email inbox and not really getting the traction that you're hoping for. You can go from scrolling blind to organization and knowing exactly what it is that you want to do. All right, you guys, so remember, if your resume isn't aligned, if you don't have the keywords inside of there, the system will not recognize you. And don't take it personal, because that is just the way the system was set up, and it's something that you can 100% overcome. You don't have to continue applying for job opportunities not knowing what your resume score is. Blossom Pro shows you exactly where the gap is, so you can stop guessing and applying with strategy. Drop a comment and let me know if you're getting silence, rejections, or if you're actually getting interviews with your current strategy. Also, send this video to anyone that you see saying that they need more experience, they need another degree, they need a certification, the job market is trash. Let them know that you might need to take a look at this video because it might actually have something to do with your resume and that pesky ATS system. Chances are they're already qualified. Their resume is probably just being a roadblock. So I hope you guys like this video. Please share, like, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And let me know which video you'd like for me to make next. I read all my comments.